Morning, Matt. How are you?
I'm good, thanks. How are you doing?
Yeah, not too bad. Very cold. Very cold.
Same. It's freezing out there.
Does your house retain heat?
No, it's terrible.
Mine's the same. It just dissipates.
In fact, I was upstairs yesterday. I leant against a wall and put my hand against it. And how cold the wall is. And I've seen these products where you get it's almost like wallpaper lining paper, but it's got like a few mil of foam. And the thermal value of it says like it's equivalent of like 20 centimetre of concrete, because concrete's just so, or any kind of stone is just so terrible. You think you've got nice thick walls, but then airflow is and lime plasters and all that people talk about now. It's so complicated. There's so much contradicting information. Some people tell you this is the way to do it, and other people that. This would have been a living room, dining room, and it's been knocked into one, which is lovely. When I came and looked at the house in the summer, I was like, oh, this is so nice. It's all open plan. And then the staircase is open as well. So there's no one room you can heat.
Yeah.
But that has motivated me to build a workshop.
So have you made much progress on that then?
I have.
Ooh.
It was, I think I showed it in my shop tour. I think I did it in December, that there was actual frost on the inside of the workshop when I was working in December, because we had that really cold snap early December, a bit like now, and it was just miserable. And actually, I think it was just dangerous because you're just rushing everything and you're not concentrating, and it was just horrible. And I came in the house and I was like, nah, that's it. I'm done for the year. It's just, can't do any more. It means I won't have any videos in the bag when I go away for Christmas, which I really wanted. This is news to you, Keith, and to the audience, but my dad's not been very well for a while, and he passed away last week.
Sorry to hear that, Matt.
Thank you. But I've had 3 weeks to the funeral, and I've been going down there every 2 weeks. It's the longest period I've been at the house for 6 months now.
Yeah.
So I was like, you know what? I want to keep busy. I'm sick of being cold, and I've got 3 weeks, so I'm going to build the workshop. I started the base, and it's been hard work, to be honest, because of the weather. I got the timbers down, and then I wanted to paint them, and they're covered in frost. I'm scraping the frost off and then trying to get it in the sun to dry off. And yeah, I've got a tarp over the base at the moment, but I started framing one wall yesterday, and after this podcast I'm hoping to get the other 3 walls framed, and then maybe actually get some walls up tomorrow. And yeah, I've got this deadline, obviously, got to go to the funeral, so I'm either going to get built by then or it just kind of flat packed by then, because I can't leave it halfway. Cannot wait to have one room that I can heat. And I mean, to be honest, the time I get it done, it's going to be end of Feb probably, the time I finish it, and then it's going to start getting into spring by then. Well, we could get snow still, but yeah. I'm going to do a video about my dad. Not that we were particularly close. In fact, it was very complicated, a lot of it. But he owned 2 DIY shops as I was a kid.
Yeah.
And like with a wood yard, had lots of tools. So I've actually gone around and collected and bagged up a lot of his very old tools. Like he got chisels and planes for his 21st birthday.
Yeah.
So I'm going to take those.
Yeah.
And I filmed just me walking in the garage and showing all the stuff. And everything's rusty, so like I'm gonna do a video about it, restore them, hang them on my wall.
That's so cool.
It's people like the bit of history, don't they?
Yeah.
I've just got to try not cry, because I cry at everything.
I know.
I'm fine until I say anything out loud.
Well,
that's the trouble. Yeah. I took the shed down, and there's a concrete base under it, and then there's some other concrete that's maybe 12 centimetres higher all round it. And then I was like, you know what, if I just scale it back, I could just get it all on the one level pad, which will also reduce the height of it, because it'd be on the lower bit of ground. But I'd already built the floor for the workshop in theory, because it was in the tent, and all I was going to do is, to be honest, I was naive on that. I thought I'd be able to pick it up and drag it out, but actually I think it'd be far too heavy for me to move myself. So I've been taking the floor apart and salvaging all the timbers from it to use on this, which also means, because I've scaled back, there's enough wood in it to do in the floor to do the base and the roof of the new one.
Oh wow.
When it was freezing and I came back in New Year and I was so unmotivated, I was like, I don't want to go back out there. Maybe I'll just buy a metal shed, because I was like, you can get like a 12 foot by 10 foot one for like just under £500 and put it up in a day. And it's like, wow. Not that would really solve the warmth problem, but I think he was moving the tools in and out, and the bandsaw and things like that is so difficult.
Yeah.
I was so close to buying one. I had it added to my basket. I was going to do it, and I went on a walk and thought about it. And like, you'll regret it. You'll regret doing it. The good thing about online builders merchants like Wix, and we've spoken about this before, is you can, if you want to cost something, you can just add bits to your basket and see what the price is.
Yeah.
And I did that with the scaled back size, and like, I can build it for maybe £800, and like, oh, I was going to spend £500 on a metal shed, but for £300 more, I can get a wooden one that's kind of the same spec, as in it won't have any insulation in or anything, but I can add that in the future. As if you want to spec up a metal one, you'd basically have to build another shed inside a shed, really.
Yeah, and I guess if you get it built by the summer, you don't need to worry about insulation until next winter then. Exactly.
And I might do it, see how the money is, but I want it to have windows, and in the metal one, obviously wooden, and I would hate it. I'd love it maybe for a week, because I'd have the tools at my house, but then I'd regret it. And I might buy a metal one anyway, because I need somewhere to put my lawnmower and tins of paint and all that.
Yeah, with the metal sheds though, obviously the most common problem is the whole condensation on the roof issue. Have you got a plan to tackle that?
No. The ones I looked at have vents in. I'm not sure how much of a problem it is if you're just storing inanimate objects in there and not actually going in there. Again, I might not do. I might get my mojo back, because obviously, well, I've just said I've had other things going on in my life. I have a woodworking channel. It's stupid to build a metal shed. Yeah. Maybe I just build a wooden shed like you did. I imagine you probably could have bought one cheaper than what you built one for.
Absolutely. Yeah. Even though I did it relatively on a tight budget, I still could have bought one for much less.
But you had the spec you wanted, and you had, I imagine that's a very popular video for you.
It's been crazy popular, and also it's just a lot more rigid and strong, because obviously you tend to get sort of one by material, the prefabricated sheds.
Yeah.
Really flimsy.
Yeah. I mean, I took my shed down, and it was amazing how you take out like 10 screws and that's it. It folds flat. And the floor was rotten and the roof had gone. So it was just 4 panels. I put it on Facebook Marketplace free to someone, and someone bit my hand off to come and get it. So it was great. And they were really happy. Yeah, it's been a busy start to the year.
Exciting, yeah.
Yeah, I am excited to have it done. When it's -1 in the mornings, or -3, I think it was yesterday when I was out there doing stuff, it's like, this is horrible. But then the sun comes out, and
it's not so bad.
It's not so bad.
Yeah.
And actually, you just, by the end of the day, you feel you've accomplished something. I know you've said you enjoy the big projects, and there is something nice about the end of the day. You've got this big thing built, and you feel physically tired.
Yeah.
Like you've achieved something. It's my birthday on Sunday, and everyone, I only know about 3 people, you included, have wanted to come and visit me, and I've turned them all down because I'm like, I just want to crack on.
Yeah.
I would take some time off after the funeral and do things, but at the moment, no, I'm just going to get my head down. But then my friend Sarah, who I've not seen for about 10 months, her birthday's the week after mine, and so she wanted to come up. Yeah, she's lost someone close to her last year, so I think we're going to have a nice weekend. But it motivated me even more to get the walls up and it kind of watertight by then, because I can't relax when I'm halfway through a big project. I just want to continue. Because I've scaled back the size, I don't know if I mentioned that, I'm sure I have, that it's so easy. It would have been harder to lift the walls if I'd gone to the full size and do it on my own. And I hope I won't regret making it smaller, but my thought is I could just build a second one. The garden's quite long. Yeah. If I was building a big one, I wouldn't have got it done in these 3 weeks. It wouldn't have even contemplated it, and I don't have the money. But it's going to be the smallest workshop I've ever had.
Is it?
Yeah.
So how much smaller?
The original plan was 3 metres by 6 metres, because that's what the tent is. So now I'm doing 4 metres by, I was going to say 2.4, but it's about 2.5 metres.
Okay.
It's going to be smaller, but I don't think it's going to feel claustrophobic.
I'm trying to remember the size of my old workshop. I think it was a similar width to yours, but I think yours is still longer, so it's still slightly longer than my old workshop. And when I think back to the projects I managed to do in there...
I've left like a parking space out the front of the workshop. So I've got a concrete slab that's the size of a parking space right out the front door. So if I need to cut any sheet goods down, that's perfect, or put anything big together. Sorry, everyone, I'm really monologuing.
No, you
This is the most I've spoken to anyone in 2 weeks.
It's far more interesting than anything I've got to talk about as well. So
I had the shepherd's hut was long and thin at the end of the garden. So the door was in the middle of a long wall and opened inwards.
Yeah,
I'd leave the door open a lot, and then the door's taking up room in the room, and getting anything long in wasn't great. The door would be much better on an end. So the door's going to be on the end of this one, and it's going to open outwards. Even though I'd built a few shepherd's huts, that was my first workshop I built, and I think I learned a lot about what I wanted. And same with the windows. The windows were like 80 centimetres off the floor because I hadn't really thought about it. I just bought the cheapest windows that I could get online.
Yeah.
And they were kind of the wrong size. So when you pushed a workbench up, you were covering 10 centimetres of the window.
Oh, yeah.
But you don't know until you do these things.
Yeah, it's how you learn, isn't it?
Or you learn to do 3D design and draw it all out. But I've got a scribble on the back of my notepad of the design for this, and I'm just doing it. And that's my favourite way to work, which I think we've discussed before, that sometimes we do plans and sometimes it's all in my head. Right, I'll stop monologuing. What have you been up to? Did you have a good Christmas and New Year?
Yeah, it was really good, thank you. All of December I was feeling a little bit run down and like I wanted to take a decent break in January. And then I had like maybe 2 days off over Christmas. And for some reason I just had all of these ideas. I don't know what happened, but I just got hit with some serious motivation and I just started working instantly and had a whole new lease of energy. I don't know where it came from. So, I mean, I've got 4 videos ready to be published, and that never happens for me. That's a very, very rare occurrence. We've just been having a bit of a sort out around the house, really, and there were things that we wanted to move around, and I thought that the first kind of hurdle in doing that was going to be getting our storeroom, which is an old single garage attached to our bungalow. Renovated is a bit of a stretch. It doesn't really need renovation, it's just that it needed a few tweaks. A few weeks ago I did a video about mould, damp and condensation, how we solved all of those things in our bungalow, thinking that I'd completely resolved the issue. But when I went to work on the storeroom, the plan was to do a first video which was about insulating the walls. But as soon as I kind of emptied the room, I found out that we haven't resolved our mould problem. The walls are absolutely fine, but the floor is mouldy. So the first video, which was supposed to be about insulating walls, turned out to be about damp proofing the floor. And I also need to do a future video about what's happened is basically some of the building work that was done here decades ago has compromised the DPC, so I need to cut out some of the concrete around the room to lower the floor level. I will need to do some concreting work, and obviously I want the concrete to cure properly, and doing it in frosty weather just isn't the time. So I did the damp proofing video, then I did the insulating plasterboard video, and then I did a flooring video. And basically that's the storeroom all done, and we've moved everything that needed to go in there inside. So I haven't really been doing any woodworking, to be honest. It's all been home stuff.
You have been busy. I find that with anything house related though, you go, oh, I'm just going to do this one job, which will be relatively simple, and it turns into a nightmare.
Yeah. And also because we had so much stuff stored in there, all of that stuff has to live somewhere else. So we've got stuff in the kitchen, we've got stuff in our old shower room, we've got stuff in the utility room, and we've just been clambering over all of that stuff for weeks. So it's nice to have everything back in its place. But I'm sure you can relate to that with your tools in your kitchen.
It's gone past tools in the kitchen because I took the shed down. So that had garden tools in, about 4 pallets, all the glass for the windows, and then I've got all the wood delivered for this, which I can't put in the tent because I need the floor of the tent for the build. So it's all in my living room, and I am tripping over it. Like I have to walk sideways to get to the bathroom to get past things. Sounds like you've got loads of storage then. If you've got a workshop, that's a double garage, wasn't it, originally?
Yep, the workshop's a double garage. We've got the shed, which is... But it's a good-sized shed. And then we've got a storeroom as well, which is bizarre, I know. But it still feels like we need more space sometimes, strangely. I was watching one of Peter Millard's vlogs probably a couple of weeks ago now, Patreon channel, so the members zone thing. But yeah, he was talking about how he's possibly doing a video about birch ply alternatives. And he'd found this maple veneer plywood, which looked absolutely beautiful. The face veneer looked very similar to birch ply. But then he said about the price and and also how thin the face veneer is. It's just a very, very thin. It's £180 per sheet. So, and he said it was even more expensive than he can get birch ply for at the moment. So,
so birch ply hasn't come down. I don't look because it's not something you can get from like the standard builders merchants, is it? Birch ply, so it's not a price I see.
A lot of people can't even get it, let alone pay a premium for it. It's I mean, I haven't even tried recently. I'm quite fortunate because I've got a couple of sheets. It's not 18 mil though. I think I've got a 6 mil and a 12 mil. But I haven't really got any projects lined up for it. So every time I look at it, it's like, man, this is wasted on me at the moment. I'll definitely use it at some point.
Actually, I could ask your advice. I just thought about something plywood related, and people can comment down below if they're watching this on YouTube. I insulated the last workshop with 50mm rock wool in 3x2 studs, and I was going to go up to 4x2s for this one so that I could put thicker insulation in, but then you lose a lot of floor space, obviously, thicker the walls and the cost. I've scaled it back down. But I think actually the walls were fine. The weak points were the door. It was just a tongue and groove oak door that I'd been given, and it was warped, so it never closed properly. It's like, probably would have had no problems if I had a decent door. So my thoughts are, I build a frame out of 4x2s and then skin it on the outside with some marine ply, and then I can fill it with insulation and put another skin on the inside and then paint it. I have never used plywood for an exterior purpose. Have you?
The only time I've used plywood for an outdoor surface is the bird boxes that I made that I'm looking at out of the window right now, and they are holding up okay at the moment, but they've only been up there maybe a year and a half, 2 years. But I have heard people mention that it does eventually delaminate, which is unbelievable considering the price you pay for that stuff.
Yeah. So Wicks do something, I think they call it sheathing ply, and you see it, don't you, on round building sites, all these plywood screens are. Obviously, this is not going to kind of get direct rainfall like a birdhouse. It would, if driving rain were hit it, and I would paint it. And I could repaint it every couple of years. So I guess sometimes you just got to say these things out loud. Like, I'll probably do that. And then what's the worst that could happen? It delaminates and I make a new door. Exactly. It's not like if I'd done my whole workshop exterior out of it, that would be a bit of a problem. But for just the door.
Yeah, as long as you seal up the edges quite well, I would imagine it would last a good few years. It's just my only hesitation on it would be the cost of it, because it does cost so much money, the marine ply.
Yeah, so marine ply is probably the wrong word, because I say Wicks do this exterior sheathing stuff, and it's not expensive.
Right.
So why I like the idea of having a sheet good is it braces the door. If you've got a solid sheet, so the other option was tongue and groove, but you don't really want to glue tongue and groove. The whole point is it expands and contracts, so it doesn't actually help with bracing whatsoever. It's just a skin. Yeah, so Medite, their new exterior MDF, would be perfect. It's expensive.
Yes.
Maybe a side note, I did contact them and they got back to me within half an hour going, yeah, sorry, the last thing didn't work out. I'll forward this on, get back to you soon. And then, it must be on 3 weeks now, and I've not heard anything.
If you had the MTX, you could probably get away with like 6 or 9 mil.
I might look at the price of that, actually. Then it's getting it as well, isn't it? Because you're getting it delivered and you only need one sheet of something.
Yeah.
Is always... I don't want to pay £40 delivery. If only you could get it through any normal means. So when I've done a garden room before, you've got stud work, then OSB, then a breathable membrane, then battens, then an exterior cladding.
Yeah.
So I was thinking if you use this new fancy MDF, you could just do stud work, MDF, lose the breathable membrane, lose the OSB, lose the battens. You offer 4 things to one thing, which reduces the footprint of the building significantly. So you can have more floor space. It reduces your workload a lot.
Yeah.
And with framing the walls, I would often put the OSB on and then lift the walls. So you're lifting the walls up and that's it, done, really. So I thought it was an interesting idea. But yeah, it's hard to get hold of and it's expensive. But I'm not sure it'd be, if you get it for like £100 a sheet, I think it'd actually be cheaper than buying cladding, OSB, all that. But also I couldn't find the technical specifications, like is it breathable or would you need to put some kind of vapour barrier inside?
Yeah, I don't know either, but I should imagine they've got a whole technical team there, but I should imagine they're the ones who could answer that.
Hello, Matt here. It takes us quite a lot of time to prepare and produce each episode of this podcast, and we'd like to keep putting it out for free. If you enjoy the podcast and you'd like to help, support and shape future episodes, you can find a link to our Patreon page in the show notes or just search online for Workshop Banter Patreon. Thank you, and now back to the podcast.
One thing I have been thinking about recently is workshop clothing. I was out with my mates last month and it occurred to me that I spend time sorting my hair out and wearing nice clothes when I go out with my mates. And then it's never occurred to me to make any sort of effort when I am in front of thousands of people on YouTube.
Yeah.
So I just pretty much roll out of bed, don't sort my hair out, put on some scruffy clothes, get in front of a camera, and yeah, I'm in front of thousands of people, but it's never really occurred to me that I should probably make a bit more of an effort to look tidy. All of my work clothes are pretty much just old clothes that I've got paint on. You know, they're scruffy and they're a bit of a mess. So I've spent some money on some, they're called cargo trousers. They're kind of like denim-y kind of fabric. They've got a drawstring waist, which I like because I can never be bothered to... Well, it's not that I can't be bothered to do a belt up, but I just find them quite uncomfortable when I'm working, whereas a drawstring waist is just a bit more comfortable for me. But you've got loads of pockets down the legs and stuff as well. So I found like a few pairs of them on sale on ASOS for like 14 quid each. So I bought like 3 pairs of them. It's just looking less like a sack of potatoes on camera, basically.
I've definitely devolved. I think when I first started, I used to wear waistcoats in every video, and I used to try and look smart.
I remember, yeah.
And especially this week doing the workshop build, I could not care less. It's just cold, and I'm just going to keep warm, and I've got a silly bobble hat on. In my Amazon wishlist for a year, I've had a pair of dungarees, and they only cost like 22 quid. But you know, it's working, especially when you're bending over and your T-shirt comes untucked and you have that cold air going up your back, and like, dungarees would solve that. And I thought if I just put, I've got one of these padded shirts on today, over the top of it, no one would know they're dungarees.
That's a clever
They
technique.
just look like jeans, because I'm definitely not going for the dungaree look. Not cool enough to pull that off.
Well, one of the biggest problems when you're doing work on camera is the whole builder's bum thing, isn't it?
Yeah.
Because my crevice comes out whenever I'm bending over, unfortunately. I don't know about you, but I've had a big issue with buying T-shirts that are long enough.
Long enough, yeah.
You try them on, they're like, oh, these are perfect. You wash them, and then they're like 2 inches shorter.
Well, I'm quite skinny, so I kind of need a large for length, but then it's baggy on me. But I have to say, this is middle-aged chat here. Marks and Spencer's do a big and tall range, so you can get the fit you want, but with about 2 inches longer.
That sounds good.
Yeah, but I'm now a huge fan of braces. I've been wearing braces for years, No one needs to know this information. I don't have much of a bum, so I have to wear a belt. But if I have things in my pockets, and during the day, my pockets seem to get more and more full. I've got 17 tape measures now and 4 Stanley knives.
I can relate to that.
So your trousers are falling down, as with braces, they're just there, or suspenders to our American audience. But yeah, I used to dress smart, and then I think it all really stopped when I moved up north. I think I felt more creative when I was in Hampshire, and the projects I think were more creative. I feel when I was up north they got more practical, maybe because I started with the workshop build and things, and then so you're dressing more in your padded knee trousers because you're doing that kind of work and stuff with paint on.
So you wear a lot of these kind of big shirts. Are they like quilted on the inside?
Yeah.
Are they nice and warm?
This is not an advert, but these are Dickies ones. These used to be like 25 quid, and I must have had these for 5 years. And it's covered in paint and glue and stuff, but there's not one thread pulled or hole. They're really great, and they're poppers.
The bit that I'm confused by is because it looks like a woolly kind of material, so does sawdust stick to it, if you know what I mean?
No, not found that at all.
Oh, right.
A big fan of the padded shirts, and I've got so many layers on now. I've got one of these snood things to cover my face. One thing I bought myself that I thought I wanted and haven't really worn it is a gilet.
Right.
I bought Carhartt one. It's got kind of the fluffy, that looks like a lining that looks like it's a sheep. I forgot what they call that stuff.
Is it Sherpa?
That's the stuff.
That's what I've got in my hoodie now.
Yeah,
I wear
yours
it
is
all
dyed
day
green
when I'm in the house because it does keep you warm.
That looks really good one. So I bought this thing because thinking it's nice not to have something on your arms if you're trying to do something.
Yeah.
Your sleeves get in the way sometimes. And it's got nice pockets for your hands. But I bought that thinking this is going to solve all my problems. Work boots is something. Someone messaged me about them the other day because I've been wearing the same pair of Blundstone steel toe cap Chelsea boots for 5-6 years now.
So are Chelsea boots the ones that don't have laces? You can just pull them on. Yeah, I'd really like a pair of those.
I love them because when you're going in and out of the house and you've got dirty feet, you can just kick them on and off.
Yeah, and they've held up really well.
I think they were over £100. These are expensive boots, but the fact they've lasted so long. I mean, they've got holes in the soles. I can see the steel of the steel toe caps. But I've abused them. I've never polished them.
They still do their purpose.
They still do their purpose.
Matters, isn't it?
I reckon they've at least got another year in them.
Yeah. Yeah, I might have to invest in some of those. See, in terms of footwear, I'm terrible because I always just buy the cheapest good brand of running shoes that I can find, purely, again, for comfort. I usually buy shoes secondhand on eBay for the workshop. I tend to buy like Adidas or Nike or something like that because they just hold up a lot better over time for wear and tear. But they do take a fair amount of abuse, but work boots would definitely be more appropriate, especially because I've been doing more kind of DIY stuff and less workshop-based woodworking stuff. So comfort isn't the only priority anymore. It's more about durability.
So maybe we should do an Instagram poll and see if people think we should turn this from a woodworking into a fashion podcast. But no, I love steel toe cap boots, and I use the steel toe caps to lean things on all the time.
No wonder they're worn through then.
Yeah, that's probably true. But if you're picking something up, sometimes you just pick the corner up and then I rest it on my toe so I can get my hand under it. Or you're laying something down and you've got your fingers under it so you don't want it to pinch. You just lay it down onto your foot. I've given up buying cheap shoes because the last couple of years I've had real problems with my feet hurting, one foot in particular. And I started doing some research and this blew my mind that your feet can grow up to the age of 40 half a size a decade.
Really?
So I don't know when last time I measured my feet, like 14, 15 years old.
Yeah.
Also, I was a size 12, but the size 12 was the maximum you could buy back then because you still had to go to shoe shops. And so I think I've measured my feet again, and I'm a size 13, so I've been wearing the wrong size shoes. And I bought barefoot shoes. I don't know if you've heard of these. So this is, sorry people, we will get to some making soon, but I find this interesting that most shoes have heels or are wedge shaped. You're tilting forward and you correct your posture by actually leaning back.
Right.
Which is terrible for your back. And obviously for most of human history, we've either walked barefoot or with just a bit of leather under our foot. It's only the last couple hundred years we've been wearing shoes. And heels came about because to ride a horse, you need heels for stirrups. And therefore, only rich people had horses and rode. So it became fashionable to have a heel. And that's the only reason you have heels on shoes. There's no practical kind of purpose, even though it's terrible for your back.
Yeah.
And shoes kind of taper into a point, they tend to, and like your foot is not that shaped. So barefoot shoes they call them zero drop, so there's no heels. Shape of them, they almost look a bit like clown shoes, some of them, but they're so comfortable. And I was limping at one point. Since I got them, I've had no pain for like months in my feet now. It's just changed everything. So, well worth it.
No way. It's weird. You think we're, progressing in an evolutionary way, but actually some of the things that we do are just backwards.
Yeah, let's stop talking about shoes. I know I'm the main culprit here.
So the last video we did was talking about things that should exist in the woodworking or workshop world. I don't know if you saw a video by Ben at Crafty Little Maker, but he kind of did a response to our podcast episode where we mentioned the badapters.
Yeah.
Where you can, adapt a certain battery to fit a different brand of tool. And I'm not nearly as worried about using them now as I was before, because I'd kind of pictured them as being some electronic device on the inside, but he basically just illustrated the point that it's literally 2 pins and converting where those 2 pins lead to in the battery. So that's kind of inspired me to actually buy one and try them out.
Yes. From what I saw, the ones he used, they only did Ryobi to something else.
Okay.
I think. Yeah, it's great. I'm definitely getting it because I've got loads of Bosch batteries. But Bosch Professional don't do gardening tools.
Of course, yeah.
So I actually bought a Bosch green strimmer. It's a different battery platform and a different charger. So actually, I'd very happily get Ryobi garden tools because they have a bigger range. Or like I want a battery chainsaw.
Yeah.
And Bosch don't do one. And yeah, so they're really good, those battery things. And yeah, it's a good video. And yeah, he's a nice guy. I met him at the first ever Maker Central.
Oh, cool. Yeah, we'll leave a link to that in the show notes if anyone hasn't checked that out.
You had a Ryobi hot glue gun. Do you have any other Ryobi stuff?
No, that's the only Ryobi tool I have.
So you've got a good way of testing it then.
Yeah, that would be ideal if I could get the Ryobi hot glue gun working on Milwaukee batteries. That would be amazing.
Yeah.
So we've got a question from David. Have you looked at a Chinese diesel heater for your workshop?
I don't know what a Chinese diesel heater is.
I didn't either, but I saw a video recently of one by Vevor, Vevor, by Frank Williams. And he's basically done a bit of a review of one of these heaters that he's bought from Amazon. And you basically just pour in diesel fuel as you would into your vehicle and it heats the workshop.
Where do the exhaust fumes? Do you have to have a pipe going outside?
I think you do, yeah. He does a diagram in the video where he shows how it all operates.
I'm sure you'll put a link in the show notes.
Yes, I will do, yeah. Yeah, he mentioned in the video as well that you could get something called red diesel. I didn't even know what that was, but apparently it's sold to farms and commercial premises for heating purposes.
Yeah, you're not allowed to use it on the road.
Right. And you don't pay tax on it or something like that?
No, it's much cheaper.
Yeah.
I think canal boats use it as well. But then you have to go to a specialist place.
Yeah, the trick is actually getting hold of it, isn't it, I think Frank mentioned in his video that he couldn't get it around his area, so he'd have to go and travel to get it, and by that point you've kind of exhausted all the savings on it.
Yeah. Me and you are quite rural.
Yes.
So I imagine we can get it very easily. But then you've got to store it. I think like the fire department would say never store more than like 5 litres of fuel even in your garage. And
yeah.
So you're not going to go and pick up 5 litres at a time, are you? Especially if you're burning it every day.
We got a message from Lumberjack Tools as well. I think we've both mentioned over the years that we were keen to get our hands on trying out that TS 1800, which is the rebadged rigid one. The hybrid saw, which is kind of cast iron top, but with all of the features that you'd expect on a more kind of site-based saw.
Looks a really interesting saw at a really interesting price point.
700-800, aren't they, I think?
I'm sure it's gone up by then because everything's gone up. But
true. Oh, they're now 900.
Yeah. It's very comparable to the Axminster Craft one, I'd say, but it looks like it's got a bigger work table and a stand, and
it's on wheels as well, which is quite useful.
Oh, is it?
But yeah, they've mentioned that they're at the Newark Woodworking Show, Makers Central and Harrogate Woodworking Show.
For looking at tools and things, I've always been more interested in the one that Peter's gone to a few times. I think it's the D&M Tools Kempton Park Racecourse one. If you just want to stall of all the big tool brands so you can actually pick up and look at it, that's what that's more about, which is interesting. Cool.
As much as I want to see it and I want to try it out, I'm not going to go to a show just to do that, and nor am I going to go up to their showroom in Nottingham. Is it in Nottingham? Somewhere like that. But I kind of said to them, if you want to send one to me, by all means, I'll have a look at it. And also, I'd want to use it for a good few weeks or months before I did any sort of review on it anyway.
But someone else is kind of an ambassador for them.
Sean in the Shed, yeah.
Sean in the Shed, yeah. Look, nice little videos.
So what have you been watching recently, Matt?
I have not watched any woodworking videos for about a month now. I've just been distracted with other stuff and haven't wanted to think about woodworking. I have been watching lots of videos about filmmaking and vintage lenses and stuff, but I can't think of their names, and I won't put links because it's probably not of huge interest to other people. But I think sometimes you just need a break, don't you?
Absolutely, yeah. And
woodworking has been a main part of my life for something like 6 years, and I've just wanted to take a month off from it. So I'm afraid I have no recommendations. I've not watched any of your videos, Keith. I have no idea what you've been doing.
No, like you say, sometimes you just need to switch off for a while, and I can completely understand that. Yeah.
Oh, I did watch the Crafty Little Makers one, though, just because he hadn't posted a video for years and it was short, and I did watch that. So even though we spoke about it already, I'm going to cheat and recommend that one because it's literally the only maker-related video I've watched.
Cool. So I've got a channel that I don't know whether this was recommended to me by a person or the algorithm, but it's a chap called Pete, and his channel is called Northern Works, and he's got some really good woodworking videos about making quite sleek looking designs and furniture with minimal set of tools and all done in his garden. And I kind of like that approach because it reminds me of how I was working 7-8 years ago, so it's been quite cool to watch. But he's doing things that are, well refined and really well designed, so it's been nice to see.
Subscribed. I'll watch some of those tonight then. That maybe get me back into woodworking. I think that's also, you get stuck with you're very good at finding new channels, as I don't seem to be. And I see his second video in actually is DIY tool storage, so that's something I want to talk about in a future episode, so that'd be good to watch.
Excellent. So have a happy birthday on Sunday, was it?
I think so, yeah. I don't care about my birthday at the best of times. So
I'm exactly the same. Mine was actually a week ago. Yeah, last week. Last Wednesday.
Happy birthday for them.
It was the big one as well. It's the big 4-0.
Oh, I'm 2 years ahead of you.
Hidden it on Facebook and all of those things, and I just don't want anyone to know, and I just want it to go by with unnoticed, if you know what I mean.
It's weird. Everyone else makes a big deal of my birthday, and I don't care. But I'd said to everyone, my family, like, I'm not going to see you. Let's just do it after the funeral, because I just can't enjoy anything at the moment.
No, of course. Yeah.
But then I think what I might like to do is just walk to a local pub and have a couple of drinks, because it's just so informal.
Yeah.
But kind of doing anything
prearranged. You just want something like chilled.
Chill. Yeah. But yeah, great to have a catch up. Speak to you soon.
Nice one. See you soon.
Bye.
Mate.
Thank you for listening. You can find Keith on YouTube by searching for Rag N Bone Brown and me by searching for Badger Workshop. We have a Patreon page if you'd like to help support us in making future episodes of the podcast. Link to that in the show notes. And we have a Workshop Banter Instagram and Facebook page if you'd like to get in touch, which is @workshopbanter, all one word.